Test match rugby this weekend, folks. The Pumas taking on the Springboks from Buenos Aires. It is a strange fixture, just in that it is a one-off test between the Pumas and the Boks, which is not something we normally get because it's usually part of the Rugby Championship, which is on hold this year as the All Blacks and the Boks head off on their own, doing their greatest rivalry thing. So the Pumas are left with not that many games, and they've rested a heap of players. The Boks are also in a strange position where they've left some guys in South Africa, brought a bunch of guys back from injury to get a run out here ahead of the All Blacks tests. So it's just a bit of a strange kind of circumstance for this match. We'll go through the squads, which have been announced, some stats, recent history predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this match is going to go. Honestly, the Pumas injury list is a mile long, and I think the rested player list is even longer because the Pumas don't get an off-season, very similar position to the Boks, where they have to manage the minutes of especially the guys who play in Europe. It's a little bit different for the guys maybe in Japan, whose season is a little bit different length, but the vast majority of the Pumas guys play their rugby in Europe, so now is the time that the European clubs are having their off-season. So a lot of the Argentinian guys are just having a rest over this August and September period. Also, Argentina at the moment is kind of being cast as the villain of the rugby world after the way the England-Argentina match ended with a bit of a fracas, and then the referee getting a bit of a shove and Thomas Albanaz getting himself suspended. He was going to be rested anyway, but he's suspended as well. But then also Argentina are kind of the victims of the All Blacks and Springboks going to do their own thing. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other maybe, but either way, they've got 3 tests to focus on, and the Springboks coming to town will certainly be a big occasion. For their squad, they've got several debutants, including a tight hip prop, who gets his debut against the Springboks. Starting as well, he's not even on the bench, Francisco Moreno. He's a big unit, he's in his early 20s, 140 odd kilos, he's a big unit, but goodness me, that's a heck of a way to make your debut up against the Springboks scrum. So good luck to that young man. Ignacio Ruiz gets a chance to actually start at hooker with Montoya, the usual captain, being one of the long list of rested players. He's usually riding the pine, so he gets a start for a change, and Boris Wigner, who's been in and out of the squad for a wee while, he gets a start as always up from the bench. They've got a very experienced lock-in duo. It's kind of very similar to the Boks one in that it's a blast from the past. Like the Boks have got Eben and Lutdiaka, which for many years was the premier lock-in duo for the Boks, since they've had other guys come in and both these regular guys get out injured at times. That's changed a lot in recent years, but it's Guido Pezzi and Thomas Lavanini for the Pumas, which for so many years was their premier lock-in duo as well. A lot of people seem to have forgotten the fact that Lavanini's still playing. He played a season down here in Super Rugby. He's got a bad reputation for discipline, for having ill discipline, getting a bit of the kind of red mist descending on him. He only played 6 games for the Highlanders in this season just gone. Highlanders had a pretty poor year, and he spent a fair bit of it injured. But in those 6 games, did he get himself yellow carded? Yes, 1 time, which seems like a pretty bad ratio of cards to games. 6 games, 1 card is not great, but I will tell you, because I remember that game, the card was nothing red mist descending, violence, that kind of thing. He just, I think it was the Chiefs were getting a line break, he just kind of pulled the jersey of a guy who was running a support line on the line break, and the guy just fell down like a ton of bricks. So it's kind of an early tackle, cynical line break, interference, yellow card. So nothing traditional Thomas Lavanini. I think his discipline has generally been a bit better. He's on 90 odd caps as well, so good to see the big unit back in the squad alongside Petty. Matera is the most experienced guy in the squad. He takes over the captaincy in the absence of Montoya. Benjamin Grondona and Joaquim Moro are also getting a start this week. Grondona comes into the squad, and Moro will be expected to take over those hard carrying duties, which we've seen from the likes of Oviedo in recent times, so expect to see that guy get a lot of touches. In the back line, Benitez Cruz up from the bench to start at 9, and then Santi Carreras shifts to 15, with Albanaz both suspended and rested anyway. So he was the premier 10 for the Pumas for a few years, having made his way from wing into 10. He's been largely relegated to fullback with Albanaz taking over at 10, but he gets a chance to resume his duties at 10, and then Valorolo and Sinti are the 12-13 combo. So it's a slightly changed one. Like, we're missing Picardo, we're missing Chocobares, the usual guys you would see at 12 for the Pumas, but Sinti has been a regular. Iskiro and Mendy, the speedsters, on the wing, and Priscantelli is there at fullback, so kind of another second playmaking option. Not that too different when you would have Santi Carreras and Albanos playing 10 and 15 as well. On the bench, you got a few potential debutants. Leonel Oviedo gets a crack in the number 16 jumper. He spent a season over here in Super Rugby playing for the Force. Got a little bit of limited game time, but he gets his debut here. They got a couple of loose forwards getting their debuts as well, so it's 4 guys potentially debuting in this one, which is a lot when you're playing the number 1 team in the world, but we'll see how they go. Just 2 backs on the bench, Mojano and the veteran Moroni. Vivas and Rapetti will also have their work cut out for them at scrum time, but I've liked the looks of Rapetti. He's still a young man and seems to be coming along. We'll see what kind of minutes he gets from the bench. For the Boks, goodness me, how many guys are returning from injury? I believe the official count is 10. So this is the game where Russie gets a bit of match fitness in them and to see where they are at. But there's a heck of a lot of changes from the team that last ran out against Wales. I think it's only Reinach and Fussy in the starting 15 who keep the same jersey number. I don't think anyone else was even in the squad from that starting 15, and there's a couple of guys on the bench who retain their spots, like Ben Jason Dixon. Corbus Visas dropped to the bench, Marco van Staden. Like, Ben Jason Dixon and Marco van Staden seem to be perpetual bench guys. Some guys just get that bench role. That just seems to be their thing. But yeah, guys returning from injury is certainly the story of the day. Boan Fenter, Johan Grobelaar, and Thomas du Toit. I will be keen to see Fenter and Grobelaar in particular get some test match minutes into them. With a debutant at tight head for the Argentinians, Fenter will, I think, be under pretty clear instructions to make his debut a bit of a misery. If they can get on top at scrum time, you can feel like things will go well for the Boks lads. It's a birth and Lutiaka, like I mentioned. It's a resumption of duties for the veteran pair. So that's just such a classic. Petty, Lavanini, skills guy, big bopper up against Eben and Lutiaka. Like, it's very like for like, isn't it? I quite like the look of that. Kolisi, Arokolo, and Cameron Hanekom. So Kolisi's also going to benefit from a run out. I look forward to seeing how Arokolo goes. See if he's their kind of extra lineup option because he's pretty big. And then Cameron Hanekom gets another crack at number 8. So he's getting some decent game time into him recently as well, which is going to be good. If he's going to reach his potential, he needs to be playing more games at the top level. Corbus Reinach, like I mentioned, continues on at 9. And then Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu finally back at 10. I mentioned when the Boks squad was announced the other day, I was kind of worried when he initially got injured a wee while ago that he might not be back for the greatest rivalry, but he's getting a run out here, so fingers crossed everything goes well for him. Shakes off a bit of rust. It's a shame he doesn't get to play against Albanos, because I think him and Albanos are both 10s, kind of like Moonga as well, who like to be in the thick of it. They like to have a carry, they like to bust tackles, they like to score tries. Like, as opposed to some of the other 10s who are more playmaking. Like, I mean, they can all do a bit of everything, but, you know, Sasha is just so devastating. So is Albanos at busting tackles themselves, but, oh well. Ngomazulu back is certainly a bit of good news either way. Andre Esterhuizen likewise is back. Kanan Moody, if you like, could use a bit of form at 13. Ethan Hooker is back after his long injury layoff, so I look forward to seeing how sharp his match fitness is. Edville van der Merwe seems to never be slowing down, at Apalele Fussy there at fullback. The fullback question still remains a bit of an interesting one for the Boks, I feel. Who do you reckon starts at 15 against the All Blacks? I feel like that is still up in the air. Is it Damien Willemse? Is it Apalele Fussy? I don't know. We'll see how things go. I'm guilty of getting my mind on the All Blacks already when there's a big test ahead against the Pumas. Vessels is the hooker cover this week. Steenekamp and Porthen prop cover. Steenekamp is one guy I am watching out for as well in terms of, like, with Ox being out, how well Steenekamp goes is going to be an interesting one. Ben Jason Dixon, Corbus Visa, like I mentioned, dropped to the bench. Russie did say in the press conference that these guys will come on pretty early because Lut and Eben haven't had that much game time, so maybe 40-odd minutes, and then we see a change at locks. Marco van Staden, and just the 2 backs on the bench, Mone van der Berg and Hodri Pollard, also coming back from injury. So it's a big list of guys to shake off some rust, but I look forward to seeing how they go. And yeah, you can bet the Boks are going to be favourites, but we'll get to that in a second. Some stats for the Argentinians. Like I mentioned, they got painted as the villains after that England result, especially with that game having 7 yellow cards in it against England. Argentina had 3 of them, but despite 3 yellow cards in that one game and then 1 against Scotland, Argentina's discipline has actually been pretty good. They've never had 10 penalties across those 3 Nations Championship games. I think the most they had was 8, which is actually a pretty decent penalty against count, so not particularly ill-disciplined. They won't be happy with having conceded so many tries against Scotland. It was 7 and 5 against England. I feel like that scramble defence, goal line defence, stopping those 22 entries from becoming tries is one area that the Pumas struggled with a wee bit compared to the Boks, who were very efficient in that area, likewise also having played Scotland and England. They did get some busted tackles. They're very good in that area. Busted like 50-odd against the English, which is nuts. It'll be much harder going against the Boks, but a couple of those guys who were busting those tackles, it was Albanoz and it was Oviedo. They're 10 and they're 8. Those guys are both absent for this one. For the Boks, they had 3 very different games in the Nations Championship, so it's kind of hard to get too much of a read on it because they played 3 different squads, as well as Russie was going through a bit of rotation. Like, they dominated possession and territory absolutely against Wales, where they didn't concede a point, whereas on the flip side, they were living off scraps in the scheme of things against the Scots. They only had like 39% possession, which for the Boks, under Russie in particular, is absolutely unheard of, but they did have that really ruthless goal line defense. Despite all the opportunities the Scots created, they converted obviously not enough of them. And also one thing that stands out from their 3 games, which is kind of consistent, is the first quarter blitz. Like, the Boks put on, I think it was 45 points by my count in the first 20 minutes across all 3 games and conceded none. So their first quarter is quite incredible, but the second quarter kind of sucks. The Boks have been pretty bad. They've conceded a lot of points in those second 20. I think they've scored 5 and conceded 14 against England, 14 against Scotland. They obviously didn't concede any points against Wales throughout the whole game, but yeah, first quarter needs to be followed up with a bit more consistency in the second. Recent history between these sides, it's 4-1 to the Boks. They did lose to the Pumas back in 2024, a 1-point nail-biter, but otherwise things have largely been going the Springboks way. The average score is 39-21. The games outside of South Africa have obviously been a bit closer. The ones in South Africa have been blowouts, like in Mbombela 48-7, Durban 67-30, but in Argentina, it tends to be a bit closer. The last time they played at this stadium in Buenos Aires, it was 24-13, which is still a comfortable enough victory for the Boks without being a real hiding. The predictions for this one is the bookies saying the Boks by 17, and the rugby forecast algorithm saying the Boks by 16. So they are pretty massive favourites. I know they've got a bunch of guys coming back from injury, but it's genuinely a much more experienced side than the Pumas one, who've got a lot of second, third, or even more choice guys in their lineup as they rest guys or have guys injured. It is on from Buenos Aires. I think it's a 4 o'clock local kickoff time over in Argentina, which I think works for everybody, because in South Africa that's 9 p.m. I think. Here in New Zealand that's 7 in the morning. Everyone can watch that one happily without having to get up in the middle of the night, except maybe the Aussies. That's like 5 in the morning for you guys. Pierre Brousset, the Frenchman, is the ref. Fingers crossed he has a good game. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. Things to gain for both sides. A bit of depth building for the Pumas as they blood some younger or less experienced guys for the Boks. Getting some match sharpness, getting guys a run out, but also focusing on getting a win, as Russie said in the press conference. Important for them. You guys let us know your thoughts. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.